All right, today we are taking a deep dive, a journey right into the heart of our own bodies. We're going to explore the incredible, complex world of the gastrointestinal system. Think of it as the internal factory that's working 24/7 to power our lives. And I'm not just talking about intuition. You know exactly what I mean. That fiery burn after a big, spicy meal, the ache of an upset stomach, or, just that general feeling that things are off down there. We've all been there. And those feelings, they're actually messages from one of the hardest working systems you've got.
The absolute best way to picture your GI system is as this super efficient, nonstop factory. It's constantly taking in raw materials, everything you eat and drink, and running them through this amazing series of processes to create the fuel that powers every single cell in your body. It's pretty incredible.
So, before we get into what happens when the factory machinery breaks down, let's just take a quick tour, shall we? Let's see how the assembly line is supposed to run when everything is humming along perfectly.
Really, it all boils down to three main jobs. First up is digestion, which is all about breaking food down into tiny, usable pieces. Then you've got absorption, where your body grabs all those essential nutrients and pulls them into the bloodstream. And finally, there's metabolism. That's the magic step where all that fuel and all those building blocks are put to work to keep you going. Sounds pretty simple, right? Well, for the most part.
Okay, let's move on to the first big department in our factory, the stomach. This is where some of the most common and, let's be honest, most annoying problems can pop up. It's where you can really feel like your own stomach is fighting back against you. Now, this is a really fascinating distinction. When we talk about heartburn or GERD, we're basically talking about a plumbing problem. There's a valve, a sphincter, that gets a little lazy and relaxes when it shouldn't, letting stomach acid splash back up where it has no business being. But a peptic ulcer? That's totally different. It's not a mechanical glitch, it's a literal physical injury, an actual sore or a wound on the wall of your stomach. For decades, we all blamed stress and spicy food for causing ulcers. But it turns out the main culprit for a huge number of them is actually a bacterial infection. Get this, a tiny organism, H. pylori, can actually set up camp in the protective lining of your stomach, causing all kinds of inflammation that can lead to those painful ulcers. So, how do you fight a bacterial infection that's hiding out in your stomach? Well, it takes a pretty powerful combo therapy, often called the HP pack. The acronym PAC makes it super easy to remember. The P is for a proton pump inhibitor, like Prevacid, which reduces stomach acid to let the lining heal. Then you have A for amoxicillin and C for chlorothermicin, two different antibiotics to hit the bacteria from two different angles.
Now, this is absolutely crucial. The treatment takes a full 14 days, not 12, not 13 when you start feeling better, 14. And why is that so important? Because if you stop early, you might kill off the weak bacteria, but you risk leaving the toughest ones behind. And those survivors, they can multiply and create a whole new infection that's now resistant to the drugs. You have to finish the entire course.
Okay, let's head further down the assembly line. We're moving past the stomach and into the long, winding roads of the intestines. This is where a whole different kind of chaos can erupt. This is maybe one of the most important things to understand in gut health, the difference between a disease and a syndrome. Inflammatory bowel disease, or IBD, is a true disease. You can see it. There's physical inflammation, actual damage, ulcers. But irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, is a syndrome. The symptoms, the pain, the cramping, all of that are 100% real, but there's no visible inflammation or damage. It's a functional disorder, diagnosed by what you're experiencing, not by what a scope can see. So, within that IBD category, you've got two main players, Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. And the biggest difference between them really comes down to one word: location. Ulcerative colitis, just like the name says, is limited to the colon and rectum. That's it. But Crohn's disease, it's the wild card. It can pop up and cause inflammation anywhere in the GI tract, from your mouth all the way to the other end. And that key difference is what drives their very different symptoms. So we've seen the problems, right? The plumbing issues, the physical wounds, the inflammation. Now let's look at the solutions. I like to think of these medications as a specialized toolkit, where every single tool is designed to fix a very specific problem in our GI factory. So let's take a super common problem, like heartburn. Your toolkit doesn't just have one fix, it has three. And each one is a step up in power from the last. Let's walk through them. starting with the most straightforward approach. Okay, level 1. This is your first responder, the quick fix. Think of things like Tums or Rolaids. They don't stop acid from being made. They just jump into the stomach and neutralize the acid that's already sloshing around in there. It's fast. You get relief in minutes, but it's temporary. It doesn't solve the underlying issue. Level 2 is about getting ahead of the problem. These are the H2 blockers, the drugs that often end in titidine, like famotidine, which you probably know as Pepcid. They work by blocking one of the main signals, histamine, that tells your stomach, hey, make more acid. So they don't just clean up the mess, they help prevent the mess from being made in the first place.
And then you have level 3, the real heavy hitters, proton pump inhibitors, or PPIs. These are the prazole drugs like omeprazole or Prilosec. These don't just block a signal. Oh no, they go right to the factory floor and shut down the little pumps in the stomach wall that actually secrete the acid. They are by far the most powerful tool we have for turning down acid production.
Okay, here's a little piece of pharmaceutical trivia that is just so clever. It turns out that antacids made with aluminum can cause constipation, but antacids made with magnesium can cause the opposite problem, diarrhea. So what did the smart folks in the lab do? They mixed them together. Products like Malox have both, so the side effects basically cancel each other out. Kind of brilliant, right? So, after our tour of the factory, its potential problems, and the toolkit to fix them, what does it all mean? What's the one big thing to take away from all of this? Well, it really just comes down to one thing: listening. Now, this is a fantastic insight. It completely reframes how we think about a really common issue. Most of us think constipation is about how often you go, right? But this tells us that what really defines it is the ease of the movement, not the frequency. Someone who goes easily every 3 days probably isn't constipated, but someone who strains and struggles every single day, they are. It's a total shift in perspective. So in the end, what have we learned? Your GI system is this amazing, hardworking factory. And all those symptoms, the burn, the cramps, the discomfort, they aren't your body punishing you. They're just signals. They're messages that something needs a little attention. And by understanding what those signals might mean and how the tools in the medical toolkit work, you become a much more empowered, informed partner in your own health. Your gut has a whole lot to say about your diet, your stress, your overall health. It's in constant communication. The only question left is, are you tuning in? Are you really listening to what it's trying to tell you?